Welcome to day 17. Donald Trump, you are fired. How's it going in this heat wave? We're cooking now, man. 17 days into this. I said to a friend today, somebody who's been supportive of this, and I'm grateful. There's a lot to bite off and chew on. I have like 83 more times I have to do this, and my circadian rhythm has been out of whack, and I didn't. For some reason I forget things like this. I realized I had taken like a 15-month break from caffeine. Like I didn't have any coffee for 15 months, not even decaf. Just stopped coffee for a while. I had a reason, but for a little while things got kind of hectic. For a little while I returned to it. Excuse me. And it's too much. I can't handle it. It throws my rhythms out of whack. I came back after work, and like 3 or 4 hours I just crashed. I had to rest. I had to sleep, and suddenly it dawned on me. It was earlier this afternoon. I was like, man, it's got to be the coffee, because I'm like, why am I so tired? Anyway, I'm very sensitive to it, and yeah, I gotta stop doing that again. So this is not coffee, and this is decaf. So anyway, I feel rested. Let's take a moment tonight here. Whatever you're going through today, whatever happened, whatever's on your mind, there's nothing wrong with this moment right now. And reality really is See, when I hear that, I think of like an explosion of sound that just wipes out all thoughts. So think about that. Just like this explosion of sound just clears all thoughts away and brings us back to where we belong, which is right now. The present moment is the province of the living, and you may never have thought about this before, but I'm telling you right now, I feel deeply the truth of this. The heart of this universe is not a point in space. It is this moment in time. So if you think about it, every living thing the world over and beyond, every living thing everywhere in the universe, no matter how far away, it could be a galaxy that is, as far as we can tell, 10 billion light years away. And perhaps it's much farther now because of how things are expanding. No matter how far away, and it's ludicrous, I'm not going to go into it, ludicrous, mathematically speaking, to suppose that there are not other civilizations out there, no matter what they are, intelligent, not intelligent. They could be the equivalent of wild animals, or dinosaurs. We are all unified in this one moment right now. Every single living thing, no matter how far away, is feeling the pulse of this present moment, and that's so cool. We're all together. we're so far away, we may never ever even know of each other. Likely, oftentimes that is the case, but we're all sharing this right now. It's really cool to think about that. I didn't, I have to do some more work in a field in which I really don't like having to work. Um, I'm, I've never been very good at the whole give yourself a reward thing, but I'm trying. I can do something that's going to be fun. I have two projects in this field in which I've learned the ropes. And if I complete these, when I complete these two projects, one I have to get done by Thursday, uh, then I can do something fun. So I need to get to work. I thought what I'd do tonight to counterbalance how heavy this is, to be dealing with this guy. I mean, I can't believe it. I was saying today to some uh, people I see regularly, like, boy, how interesting it is that this Joker is. I mean, I really should not call him names, but this poor foolish man, Mr. Trump, um, is not. I don't hear him barking about climate change as a hoax, and then someone that I see regularly was like, oh yeah, he's like going after scientists and suing them and stuff like that. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. Windmills cause cancer. Why not? Why not do that? Take all the money you possibly can, slash and burn while you're there, because I'm telling you, we're counting down right now. He's not going to be president 3 months from now. Mid-October, when this is over, I think it's October 12th is the last day. It's day 100. It would be interesting. It would be incredible if it was like that day. Although I think that might be a Sunday. Or maybe it's a Monday. Anyway, it would be really incredible if that was the end. Really incredible. So I thought what I'd do tonight, is I got other things I need to do, is I thought what I would do is I would read to you. This is also, this is a way, it's not lost on me that this is maybe not not the safest career move. I think it's going to be all right. I don't think that I'm some huge threat to anyone or anything like that politically. I have to really worry, but I've taken some precautionary measures, and I found this in a book today, and I thought about it, and I was like, the Joker cannot win. This is a wild card, and he cannot win. But I thought, this is a way I can also preserve my work, and I like to multitask, and I've got I'm working on finishing my first book, and it includes a collection of poems I've written. I love writing Shakespearean sonnets. It's a great exercise, I think, for a writer. Average of about 100 words in length, and telling a very strictly regimented story. Each line has a very specific purpose. And I've completed 127 of them. So I thought I would maybe read to you. Most of them are very short. But anyway, to kind of counterbalance and also to preserve these, and it'll help me edit them, because I need to edit the earlier ones. And as I get to each one, rather than thinking about, oh, I have like maybe 40 or 60 that I really need to rework and like get them ready to be published. But it'd be a nice, kind of like a palate cleanser for all this heavy stuff, like I was talking about yesterday, some heavy stuff, and I don't want you to be afraid right now. Yeah. So I'll read to you, I think, but it is a little freaky. Like for me, like day one. I mean, maybe I haven't watched the first video, like where that wasn't very good. I hands are kind of, there we go. But how it is true. Like I used to mess with him on Twitter and his first presidency, and it was February 27th, 2020. I tweeted a picture of myself in New York under a Fifth Avenue sign, and then like COVID outbreak happened that weekend, and that freaked me out. It's, you know, I guess it could just be a coincidence, but it freaked me out a little bit. I was like, oh man, I really hope that I didn't have anything to do with that. I had a feeling it would have happened no matter what. So, but it freaked me out. It was right around the time I started having panic attacks, which I've only had 4 in my life, but I had one soon after that. So anyway, yeah, weird, you know. Hope not, but I have been trying very hard to do something about this for quite a long time. So the story of my first sonnet is basically I was asked to write one in AP English, and this is quite a long time ago in the Aughties, the naughty Aughties, and I came up with a line, and it kind of shimmered in my mind. It was like, oh, that's a really good line. I don't know if I can do that justice. I tried to develop it, and I was like, I don't think so. So I kind of set it aside, but I kept it in my memory for a long, long time. And I wrote something else, which I have no idea what I wrote, and it's probably lost now. In fact, almost certainly is. But I wrote something else, and later on when I returned to them, it was about 2 years later, I was in college, and this is it was almost exactly 20 years ago, I started writing them, and I remember like the first 6 or 8, it was almost agonizing. So if you ever consider trying your hand at this, and I encourage you to, it's a great exercise for any writer. Working in a very strict lyrical format, I think William Shakespeare discovered this as well. And then when you break free, it's like training oneself in some rigorous discipline, you know, or how I grew up playing piano, and my teacher said that she had this one Schumann, I think is the composer. It's a famous piece called The Wild Rider, and it was in the Suzuki Method book 3 or 4, if I remember. It's very hard for me to remember things before 2002, but I think that's what it was called, The Wild Rider. I could look it up, but I haven't thought about it in a long time. But told me that she had a student that she encouraged to only play this slowly and to get the, you know, didn't use the words muscle memory, but get it down. And then at a recital, she said, all right, let it rip, because it's a very fast piece. And she said, this young woman never ever played it full speed until the recital. And then she just aced it, like just crushed it. I think very much like that. That's what happens when we work on something that's very strict lyrical format, like the Shakespearean sonnet is a 14-line structured verse poem. It has rhyme scheme A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. Like I said, every line has a very specific purpose. So what happened was I went on and I started around 2006. It was a way that I was kind of processing and dealing with romantic frustrations in my life. And I started at number 2. I knew that I had this line. I didn't return to it until 2019. And in the meantime, I had an experience with someone very special. I'm not going to say who or whom. It changed my life forever. Really, it was an incredible experience. And I wound up returning to this and writing it about the experience of meeting this person and how much it affected me. but it was, no matter what I did, I couldn't fit it into 14 lines. I couldn't do it. So what ended up happening is I developed a new style of structured verse poem, excuse me, like an offshoot or an outgrowth of this Shakespearean sonnet, and I call it a royal flush, which is interesting because the experience of meeting this person, she blushed when I smiled at her, and that was how I realized, wow, there's no accidents or coincidences possible. Look at all the horrible things that had to happen, seemingly horrible things, to bring me to where I was then and there, and to have that happen, and suddenly everything was different for me. And I was really, really at the end of my rope, and I don't think I was going to make it. So I developed this, and it's a 52 line, like, super sonnet. And it has a heroic couplet. If you've never heard of a heroic couplet, you can go check out the work of Alexander Pope. He wrote in heroic couplets. It's like rhyme, 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 rhyme. So it'd be like A, B, B, C, D, C, C, D, D. It's kind of sonorous writing. I think it's a little bit like it can kind of a little bit put us to sleep. Depends on maybe how it's read. But at the end of the Shakespearean sonnet, the GG is a heroic couplet. It's kind of like a bow tied on it, and it functions kind of like a denouement in film, like an untying of the knots in film after the climax, and all the, the narratives and all the character arcs have to be finished if it's a good film. And it's usually done relatively quickly because it's like, well, the story's over. So a royal flush, 52 lines. It has one Shakespearean sonnet with 2 extra heroic couplets, and then it has another Shakespearean sonnet, and then 3 extra couplets, and then a final Shakespearean sonnet. And I can show you what it looks like here. This is what it looks like. Like that. This is the first one ever written. And since it's 52 lines, it's 26 pairs, which is interesting because the alphabet in English is 26 letters. So a perfect royal flush can be rhyme scheme A through Z. This one has a couple of rhymes that are repeated throughout, not back to back, because I think that would not be how I would write. It's fine if someone wrote that way. It's not technically accurate. It's not really how a sonnet should be written if they were back to back. But anybody telling you there are rules when it comes to poetry and artistic expression is maybe not doing you justice, because there's always somebody who will come along and break those rules and reinvent the wheel. So don't ever let anyone tell you there are rules when it comes to art. There are guidelines for writing a certain way. If you're going to write a villanelle, for instance, extraordinarily difficult poem to write. I've written one of them, but you've heard of Rage Against the Dying of the Light. Do not go gentle into that. Good night. Rage Against the Dying of the Light, the famous Dylan Thomas villanelle. Well, that's a really hard poem to write because it's got refrain lines that have to be repeated throughout the poem, so they have to be strong enough to bear repetition. So those are guidelines. If you want to write that style of poem, you do it a certain way. But I've read sonnets that don't even rhyme. People call them sonnets. It's like, okay. And I've read there's a writer I encountered recently who wrote something called a contrapuntal sonnets. It can be read multiple ways across the page, like a poem that I've written and read recently to you, called Snow Blossoms by Half-Light. So anyway, but you can have a perfect royal flush or an imperfect royal flush. This is an imperfect royal flush, but for various reasons, I believe the rhyme scheme on this is A through V. And that's very appropriate in this context. I'm not going to explain why right now, because I respect this person's privacy who inspired this. But I will read this to you now. It's my sonnet number 1, and then we'll work through the others. Not all of them, but I will read you some of them They're much shorter than this. Usually they're just 14 lines. It just takes a minute or two. And maybe you're not interested in things like this, but this is my channel. So you can come and go as you please. It's free and open to the public. How shall I love you if not with full heart? Words may claim I do, but rather you were judge. What would you say? Can language advance art? Or does truth diminish with an abstract nudge? A decade spent exhausting sounds and shapes to mold the miracle of how we met feels like finding vineyards lush with luscious grapes and having to harvest them after sunset. And what is full heart? How is heart measured? If man succeeds at charming eyes and ears to permanent impressions of true love assured, like me, watch him freak out and flee for years from fear, which in full hearts must vaporize. So lost was I, love, life began with your eyes. Now gratitude abides in all I do, helping others, yes, but for you overdue. I wish you could know all the circumstances in our fair tale of otherworldly chances. Somehow it grows difficult not to feel that our separation since is also designed, a function of eternal love, on a wheel where at times space appears to be unkind. If I now endured any everlasting age, parsing melodies out of your afterglow, never doing you justice on a page, if that was my lot, no greater joy to know than to see you gasp and blush at my smile. Then infinity's outreached forevermore, for I'd thought life would only grow the pile of my grief until you lanced it at the core. To feel so touched, awakening right then, in shock I flew from you, I fled heaven. But life was no longer a confused abyss, oceans of hurt gone, no words, just eyes kiss. How I wish I could know you closer than this, than recounting good fortune best not to have miss. The universe, my dear, may plan otherwise. Perhaps one sacrifice means that others realize you deserve to have your favorite birds follow you, bursting with new heroic couplets beyond the reach of rhymes or words. Take it from one whose definition was love-sick, who starved on solitude, and now's well fed by time alone and the honor to declare some of the stumbling things I wish I'd said when we met on the museum's moving stair. Even if artists arose, who more than grazed the surface of sculpting love, of universal feel, answering questions easily overphrased when fortune it is to be held like, is this real? No, love, our divinest works lay but claim to truth few can fathom, and you are living proof. Thank you, if you're listening. Early on when I finished this, I had mixed feelings about ending it on a slant rhyme. Slant rhyme means it doesn't quite exactly rhyme. Like today, some of Shakespeare's rhymes don't work. He has one of his most famous ones is I 116. It's probably his most famous one. After the 18th one, you've maybe heard, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? That's his 18th. It's the most famous one of all the 154 surviving examples of the style we have of his. And he popularized this style. It was not a very, my understanding is not a very popular style of poem at the time, and he liked it. And the thesis of my book is that it's a prototype of modern three-act structure, like in films and things like that, because there's three quatrains, and like the first quatrain kind of sets things up, and then the next quatrain sort of is a plot thickener, and then there's a turn always at line 9, or there's supposed to be. I take liberties with it sometimes, and sometimes the turn, we get a running start in line 8, or sometimes it starts in the middle of line 9, but there's a turn. It's like usually there's a but, or a even though, or something like that. So like in the first chunk here, the first sonnet, we start to examine, or what is this idea of full heart? So this turn sets the last quatrain against the first 8 lines. And since this is a royal flush, it doesn't exactly follow that as much, but but even at the very end, even if artists arose who more than grazed the surface of sculpting love of universal feel, even if someone came along who could get down to the deep depths of like saying something about love, which is an intangible thing that we all, most of us know is real, we feel it. But even if someone came along who could really like just cast it in language, and answer all your questions when you feel something for someone else, like, is this real? Is a very, very valid question to be asking. Am I crazy for feeling this way? The best we could do is to just kind of like stake a flag in the truth of it. And I think it's very appropriate that to rhyme the words truth and proof. Oh, I didn't finish saying, but his 1/16th sonnet, it rhymes the words love and prove, which we don't rhyme anymore, but our understanding is that in Elizabethan times they did rhyme, and we have no recordings from in the 1600s, obviously. They didn't have any recording devices back then, no phonographs or anything. But the best we can figure it, English was pronounced much differently. It's not how the Brits pronounce it now. It's not more this like forward placement in the facial mask and it's up here. This is not how they talked 400 years ago. There's something that happened in the 1600s. They call it the Great Vowel Shift, and the pronunciation of English changed rapidly over time. Before that, it was much more like Germanic and like deep, like guttural, and so I think that more like love and prove would be how they would say it. That's my best guesstimate of how they would have said that. But love and prove is probably how they say it. I had a teacher who actually taught us that the way we pronounce English in the South in the United States is the closest surviving example we have to how it was pronounced 400 years ago, which kind of blows your mind if you think about it. Because in the South is it's just kind of very like, it's very like relaxed jaw, and it's just kind of really laid back way of talking. So it's interesting to think that might be closest to the way things were back then. So who knows? We never will know exactly. Certain things are unknowable. But I thought that was very appropriate, truth and proof. It was a very close rhyme, but not quite, because this was a near miss in my life. The universe had other plans, it's okay. Didn't get to speak to this person. And it's all right. It was always more of like a spiritual connection I felt. Even had friends in high school, someone I was so fond of. It's a very well-known person. Someone I was so fond of that my friends used to give me a hard time about it, even when I was young, as a teenager. And even then, even though I didn't have the words, I remember I was like, it's not like that. It's just not quite like that. I can't explain it. But it's more like just someone you ever met someone you feel like you'd be fast friends, and love to sit down and talk to that person for a while. That's how I feel about them now. Her now. Really like to have a conversation at some point. She seems sad lately. With all that's going on, I would imagine she's very sad, especially about certain things going on overseas. And with all respect to that person, all love. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's it for tonight. Try to balance out the heavier stuff, guys, a little bit. So if you're here, I hope you enjoyed that. It's gonna be really cool. I was just saying, I put a comment on social media that I think the same fear that caused these senators and these Congress people and all these sycophants to kowtow to this Trumpian madness all this time. Now they are, I think, out of the fear of self-preservation, fear of committing career suicide or even social suicide. I mean, no violence of any kind. I would never ever insinuate that, but it's just not me. But it's very foolish what these people are doing. The lesson of history is any situation where a large population was oppressed by a small, and it has always ended in violent revolution. I really don't want that to happen again. I think we're going to see a non-violent revolution, a spiritual revolution globally. It's going to start catching like wildfire, and it's just going to become unpopular to be corrupt. I think these people are aware that they've hitched themselves to like a train that's on fire, that's going over a cliff, and eventually they're gonna clip him. They're gonna expel him, and it's gonna happen within the next 3 months, because he is going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs all over the place right now, and he can't help himself. He can't even stay out of a picture of a foreign nation's winning sports team. He has to be in the picture, and they're like trying to get him to like get out of the picture, and he's just like it's all about me, and I like Space Force because I started it, and me and this, and I did this, and look at my ballroom. And it's like, what a brat, dude. What a brat. What a beastly overgrown infant you are. Try not to call him names, but yeah. Anyway, it's time to go and upload this. I wish you all a peaceful evening. Rest well. I have another light one of these here. Get some rest. I hope you laughed today. I hope you laughed really hard. It's always a good day, I think, when we have a really good laugh. At the end of his life, my grandfather used to say, see, all I'm looking forward to now is my next great laugh. I thought that was very wise. I was close with him. I miss him. All right. See you tomorrow for day 18. And I gotta figure out what I'm gonna talk about. Okay. All right. Okay. Good night.